It's like living in a war zone. It was commonplace coming home with your shopping and finding human beings slumped in laneways, in carports, in gardens.
That was life in inner Melbourne before Victoria set up a safe injecting room trial in 2018.
The North Richmond supervised injecting facility has worked in saving lives and changing lives. And on that basis, it will no longer be a trial, but a permanent feature.
More than 6,000 people have been treated for overdoses inside the clinic. And while heroin claimed the lives of 132 people on Melbourne's streets in just the first half of 2022, not one person has died in the injecting room in 4 years. But the facility's location, right next to a local primary school, has always been controversial.
Kids should never have to walk to school and walk past a dead body or somebody who's just injected or see sex acts on their school grounds. It is completely unacceptable.
No one was pleased to see a massive, tragic, graphic overdose problem in that local community, and some are not pleased to see an injecting facility. We're not chasing a popular outcome here or one that every single person agrees with. We're chasing an outcome that works.
While Australia's in the grips of a drug crisis, the North Richmond facility is one of just 2 nationwide. The other is in King's Cross.
These centres, they're so important in terms of getting vulnerable people the support and treatment that they need. Many countries across the world have this as standard care, and it's about time we caught up.
Deaths by overdose have outstripped the nation's road tolls since 2014. Advocates say supervised injecting rooms are a critical part of the solution.
We know that these centres save lives, and I think it's important that these centres are seen as an essential part of the solution.
None of us are pleased to think that anybody in our community is using these sorts of drugs, but they are. And therefore, we need to take steps to save lives.
Judy Ryan is the Richmond resident who actually led the campaign for safe injecting rooms, and she joins us now. Judy, why did you fight for Melbourne's first safe injecting room?
So back in 2016, it was July 2016, and I'd been living in the area for about 4 years, and I'd come from regional Victoria and moved into Abbotsford, Richmond, just near Victoria Street. And I knew that there was injecting drug use in the area, which didn't deter me from moving there. But what surprised me was the extent of it, to the point where just a day out or a session out shopping at Woolies, coming home with bags of groceries, you'd just be coming across people overdosed and slumped in laneways and in carports. And I actually found it very distressing and found it, as most people do, but it just got to the point after living in this war zone for 4 years that I really felt I needed to do something about it. I had a young man collapsed and overdosed at my back gate, and I really just felt that this young man at my gate that day was somebody's brother or grandson or nephew or boyfriend. And I just thought enough was enough. And I had a heap of people saying, I want to work with you to get this done.
So I'm really interested in the community aspect of this. Obviously, there was some support, but the biggest concern for a lot of people is that this is right next to a primary school. So do you accept that the location is not ideal?
As far as the school goes, look, I've spoken to parents who absolutely oppose it being there, and fair enough, I get what they're saying. But I've also spoken to parents who they're not concerned about it being there.
Would you be concerned,
So
Judy?
Judy,
would you be concerned sending your children or grandchildren possibly to that school?
I suppose my feeling is that the whole of the area was problematic. So where the kids were coming to and from school before the injecting room opened, the whole area was problematic for children, really. And for example, in 2017, I was with a woman who died in Victoria Street, and it was right near the Abbotsford Primary School. And I remember this lady was deceased on the footpath, and the bell went at the school in Abbotsford, and little kids were coming home past her there, you know. So, look, if I was living there with my children and the problem was as bad as it was, I would feel that an injecting room that was taking people with addiction into a, cared for situation was better than them injecting outside the school.
It's an impossible situation for a lot of people. Judy, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your interest. I appreciate that.
And we have to say that if this story has raised any issues for you or someone you know, you can contact the National Alcohol and Other Drug Hotline on 1800 250 015.
I think what this whole issue shows is that we probably need to rethink how we approach the drug issue. It's obvious that these injecting rooms work because they provide a place where people can safely inject. But the thing that you also have to think about is that they're often the first point for people who want to get out of that drug cycle. It's a way that they can touch on health services and services to get them off the drugs.
Yeah.
The flip side is that I understand that people don't want them near their house or their kids' school or anything like that. But you've got to put them where the drug users go. And I think Judy makes a good point. It actually gets people who are using out of the way, out of the visual, the sight of line of school kids and puts them in a room. But there's a lot of other issues that go with it.
Well, absolutely. Also, the thing that interests me is like what type of drugs are being done in these. Is it open for any type of drugs to be consumed in these?
Apparently, it's
testing
quite a
rooms?
right. So heroin's the one that was kind of set up for, but apparently
it's now
there's-
anything. Well, does people react differently to different drugs? And I guess you have to decide what's safe and if people react in
So
different
if someone's
ways.
like on meth,
Yeah, I think it's definitely a different energy to.
do you want that in an injecting room?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that means you just policy evolves over time as the drugs change and whatever. But I think it is a really good.
Or we
place.
have different injecting rooms or more injecting rooms for different things potentially.
Yeah.